Welcome to the Clemson Insiders on the Beat show. I'm Will Vandervoort, and this is Eric Boynton of the Spartanburg Herald Journal, a good friend of mine, joining us here today. Eric's second time with us, so Eric, appreciate you being here, buddy.
Absolutely, man. I feel like an old veteran now at this, being second time over.
Yeah,
so.
You are, man. You're old pro.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. No, hence, I'm old. So anyway, so we got a lot for you, lot to talk about today. Obviously next Tuesday, the college football playoff poll comes out. It'll be the first one this year. Obviously, it's the poll, as Dabo says, pretty much reminds us of almost every press conference. This is the only one that matters. And he's right. It is. It is the one that matters. And so, Eric, I'll start with you, man. What do you expect the top four to look like? Not what you think it's going to be, but what you expect it to look like.
What I expect it to look like, I think it's probably going to be similar to what we've seen under the Associated Press. I think you're either going to see Alabama or LSU at the top. Whichever one of those isn't one will be two. I think you're going to have Ohio State 3, and I think Clemson's going to be 4 to start off this thing. And of course, moving forward, that'll sort itself out as we got LSU and Bama playing in a couple of weeks. So certainly that'll drop the loser down a little bit. But I think it's going to be, I think Clemson, they might be 3rd, but I think they're going to be 4th. I think they're going to move Ohio State into that 3rd slot because of the dominance over Wisconsin last weekend.
What if I told you, I think number 1's going to be LSU? Easy, because I just think their strength of schedule just trumps everybody else, and the wins they have trumps everybody else.
Absolutely, yep.
Number 2 is going to be Ohio State, because I think they got the second best win, beating Wisconsin. Number 3, Clemson.
Okay.
Because I think Clemson's played to this point a more difficult schedule than the number 4 team, Alabama. And if Oklahoma wouldn't have lost, I believe Alabama would be number 5 in the first poll, because Alabama has not played anybody. They've played 2 non-Power 5 teams that they won by 31. They had 3 wins, as Coach Sweeney said, 3 wins over 31 points. 2 are against non-Power 5 teams.
Yep.
And then they got the same quality win Clemson has with Texas A&M. Clemson's played to this point 7, Power 5 teams, and the only team in the country to do that. I think that would trump it. Plus, I think when you look at Clemson's offense and defense efficiency and where they're there, that is part of what the criteria is. I think Clemson would have that little bit of edge on Alabama, so I think you're 1 LSU. I think it's going to be 1 LSU. 2 Ohio State, 3 Clemson, 4 Alabama.
I just think even though the playoff committee should have integrity, is not the right word, but should have more of a, just a certain something about them to where they would go more. It just seems like Alabama, whether it's Associated Press writers, whether it's the coach, whatever, coaches, they just seem to get the benefit of the doubt more often than not. Now, why Clemson hasn't earned that same kind of respect level yet, I don't really understand. But I just think they're going to have Alabama up a little higher.
I think Clemson gets that with the College Football Playoff Committee. The reason why, we've seen it the last few years with Clemson. Clemson was the number 1 team when they played Alabama that year in the playoffs. Clemson had a lost to Syracuse, probably had the worst loss of anybody, but got the number 1 bid.
Right.
And then you've looked at other years. The 2015 Clemson comes out as the number 1 ranked team, even though Alabama was ranked most of the year higher in the AP poll, stuff like that. So, and Clemson kept that number 1 ranking all the way through until the championship game they lost. So and then in 16 Clemson was sitting there at number, I think the first poll came out and people were questioning whether Clemson deserved to be in there, and I think they put them in at number 3 to start off with. So I think Clemson's gotten that benefit of that from the playoff committee.
Okay.
I think they'll get that again this year, because I think the committee will look at it in the body of work, and these are both teams that have earned it, in the playoffs. What I'm saying? They both have earned that right. Clemson's earned just as much as Alabama.
Right, sure. They have a certain cachet because of what
Correct.
they've done in the playoff. I wonder, what would be interesting to me is how close, I'm guessing for sure Penn State's going to be in that 5 hole. I'm wondering just how close they come when they break it down, how close they come to getting into number 4, because that Michigan win looks awful good now with what Michigan did to Notre Dame last weekend. So, and Penn State's undefeated, has a few nice wins on their resume. So it'll be really, really interesting. I don't think they'll crack that top 4 from the get-go next week. It'll be interesting to see how close they are to being in that 4th hole.
Yeah, and so I think it's, I agree that both teams had that cachet that I think that's going to give, I think both teams, that when the committee looks at them and says, okay, Alabama, Clemson get the benefit of the doubt, more so than any other two teams, I think, because they've earned that right. However, I just think right now, unlike the AP poll, I do think the committee will value the strength of schedule to this point. Now, granted, once Alabama plays LSU, and if they win that game, then I think they would jump Clemson that next week because of that, obviously. But right now, I think that first poll, which really don't make too much of it because it is only the first one, it's the initial starting point. But I think that's your 4, and I really don't see any way that 4 changes unless Alabama or LSU blows out the other and then they drop out. I really think, the loser of that game is going to be number 4. Or don't you agree?
Yeah, and again, the only team right now that's really in any kind of position is to maybe drop them to 5 and is Penn State.
Yes.
And if they keep winning moving forward, I guess they've got Ohio State, moving forward at some point.
They can earn their way in that way.
Wisconsin, I know they took a beat down against the Buckeyes last weekend, but I still think that's a pretty good football team. So I think you gained some nice points for gaining a victory there. So I think Penn State could play their way in ahead of a one-loss SEC team. Well, as you said, if it's a 21-20 game one way or the other between LSU and Alabama, it's awful hard, especially if the road team comes out with a close loss. It's going to be tough to move them out of the 4th.
Yeah, if LSU or Alabama loses by a field goal or a point or a last-second touchdown, I just think there's no way they're going to drop out. But I do agree with you. Now, here's become the interesting dilemma. Say, then LSU or Alabama goes on and win undefeated and they win the SEC. Clemson wins the ACC, goes undefeated. And then you got, Ohio State. Let's say Ohio State loses to Penn State. Now, Penn State jumps in there. So you got one loss, let's say, Alabama, and one loss, Ohio State. Who goes in? And I know some people out there say, well, Ohio State's played the harder schedule. Really? Have they? Let's be honest. The Big Ten is, I think, the most overrated conference in America, and I think it always shows when they play teams from the South mostly that it's just they have no speed. Outside of Ohio State, no one is really fast. And so the committee's, who do you put? I say you put Alabama there because, as you mentioned, Alabama has the cash.
Right. And at the end of the year, too, I know you might be talking about the earlier polls, but at the end of the year, Alabama's got Auburn on the schedule. If they do make it, beat out LSU to get into the conference title game, they're going to get most likely Florida, maybe Georgia. So they're going to have some huge, huge wins, or a chance for some huge, huge wins moving forward by years.
Yeah, and Ohio State will play Michigan, and that'll give them a chance. But, I still just think that, when you look at Ohio State and Clemson, I don't think the Big Ten can get 2 teams into the playoff. I think the SEC probably now with Oklahoma losing, the SEC sitting there in fine shape because I think that they'll take the SEC over a Pac-12 one-loss team. I just do. I think they'll take that Alabama LSU loser if that's their only loss. I
agree wholeheartedly.
I think they take that. So. That's our playoff. We just figured it out. So you see who the 4 teams are in the playoffs. We just go ahead and close it now.
There you go.
Now we just if Ohio State be the number 1 seed, right? So they can go out to the Fiesta Bowl, and that'll be great. And they can play the number 4 team, whoever that is, Alabama, whoever. And Clemson just stay 2 or 3. So just stay 2 or 3, Clemson.
It would be really nice. It'd be nice for everybody, even the media, but it's so great for the fans to finally have Clemson play somewhere remotely close. To have to go all the way out west, that's just so tough. So many fans. Whether you can afford it or not, it's even time consumption because you're taking a day to travel up, a full day to travel back.
Yeah.
And it's just awful hard. So it will really be a treat for Clemson supporters that turn out, so well on the road to just have that trip down the highway to Atlanta.
It would be, and it would be. I think Chick-fil-A Bowl would like it too because they would have. Because, every year they're going to get Alabama or LSU or Georgia. So they get those same teams in Atlanta every year for the SEC championship game. I think they would like, on this marquee game, to have different teams there. And a team like Clemson who's going to bring that home flavor still, but will probably stay in Atlanta for a couple of days and spend where, Alabama, they do it all the time. They just drive over from Birmingham. Georgia does it all the time. They just drive from Athens. Right. It's different with Clemson. they probably would like maybe having LSU if LSU didn't play in the championship game probably the month before.
Yeah, like you said, it's kind of tough because you just really don't want that same team rolling back in 3 weeks later.
Exactly.
And again, the fans aren't going to stay for any length of time.
No.
It's Clemson, you get especially, you get a chance to, to go down there, spend a couple of nights, and
exactly, spend some money around the town.
Yeah, plenty of hotel, plenty of lodging.
Absolutely.
You can stay in the suburbs if you want to, save a few bucks. So it would be really great for everybody involved.
Absolutely, and we could have Christmas at home, and that would be nice.
There you go.
But anyway, so that but there is a ball game this week. The Tigers do play Wofford on Saturday at 4:00 in the Valley. Can't believe this is the 6th home game already.
This season just went. I don't know how it went by so quick. It's amazing. It's week 10 actually, right? If you count
it's week 10.
If you count the bye week, so it's just incredible.
I mean, it's nuts. We're in the month here as we get into November, and East Carolina Clemson games coming up here in a few weeks, and that's always fun to cover and be around. So it's going to be interesting. But this Wofford team, Dabo Sweeney this week was a little, complimentary of the program there, and talked about the difference of this Wofford team. Eric, you're from Spartanburg. You obviously know these guys a little bit more. What can you tell us about the Terriers? And obviously, Dabo talks about their spread triple option basically is what he called it.
Right. Basically, this year, and this is courtesy. I got a chance to catch up a little bit with our terrific, Wofford beat writer Todd Shaughnessy, who's been covering that Wofford team for I guess over 20 years now, and knows them better than anybody. And he was telling me basically the biggest change is everybody keeps talking about how different they are with the option and all this, but Josh Conklin's in his second year now as head coach, coming in after legendary, Mike Ayers ran that triple option over his long tenure there. But Shaughnessy told me they're running only about 20% option now. Okay. And they're never under center. Quarterback's never under center. They don't utilize a fullback anymore, and it's mainly just an RPO based offense. So and they'll run some jet sweeps. I think the guy's name is Van Cleve is a receiver that's just had a tremendous amount of big plays, and it seems like over the last couple of weeks he's had some long runs, some long catches. I guess he's a very dynamic athlete. But then they're not afraid to throw the ball. Last week they had to come from behind to beat Tennessee Chattanooga, and Shaughnessy was telling me on the final drive on the 2-minute drill they threw 11 consecutive times to tie the game. And
Wofford
11 consecutive times. So it's not going to be the last time that Clemson's seen Wofford. It's going to be absolutely nothing like that at all. So they're still mostly run based. Joe Newman's their quarterback. He's getting, I guess, better and better as a thrower. He had 3 picks in the opening game, and since that time, they've only thrown 1, and it was on a Hail Mary at the end of a half. So they've really done a great job, taking care of the football. And
they've won 7 straight or something like that.
Yeah, something like that. They lost the home opener when they got completely away from the run game and just tried to be more of, I guess, a basic spread team. And they lost to South Carolina State.
That's right.
On the road. And since that time, they kind of got back more to the run-based attack. Just been playing better and better and better. So
not anybody can just go to Orangeburg and win.
No. Not at all. You threw me for a loop there. One thing I was just pointing out to you, and I'd forgotten this, but Josh Conklin, again, he's a Wofford grad, former Wofford player, and he's got some good vibes in Death Valley, and he was Pittsburgh's defensive coordinator. Right. Now, we were saying right before taping that it wasn't exactly a stellar day for his defense. That was a 45-42 Pittsburgh win. The last time Clemson's lost a home game.
43-42.
43-42, that's right. But they picked off Deshaun Watson 3 times, and we were talking about that crazy game where they had 3 turnovers inside the 10-yard line.
Clemson couldn't get the 1 yard there at the end. That would have sealed it. Remember, it was 4th and 1. They went for it. Right,
exactly.
Didn't get it.
Didn't they have a pick 6 in that game? I think Pittsburgh did, or Deshaun threw
pick 6, and they also threw 2 interceptions in the end zone.
Right. So it's just a crazy day. But, Conklin's got some good, still has some good vibes from the team winning that day. So one other interesting factor that Shaughnessy did tell me is that Conklin said, if this game starts to get out of hand early, and it's just like Clemson's just doing what maybe most of us, I think, expect Clemson to do, right, that he's going to get his starters out quickly.
Well, he's got a championship he's playing for.
Right, that's what Conklin said. They got 3 more games to go, I guess, in conference, and they hold their own destiny now for winning another Southern Conference crown. And I guess Conklin's quote was, we don't play games to beat FBS teams. That's not why we're here. That's not the ultimate goal. So, you could see Wofford starters out of the game before Clemson starters even come out of the game.
That's crazy because you always hear Dabo talk about how they're going to go win the game first, and I'm sure you saw Nick Saban's rant last week when he was asked about that same kind of question.
Yes.
And so Dabo's never gone on a rant like that, but Dabo has said in the past, well, we're here to win the game first. We're not going to disrespect our opponents and say stuff. But it's funny to hear the FBS team saying, "Yeah, we're going to take our starters out as soon as possible." So because he's playing for a championship,
right?
As well.
Exactly.
He understands they got 85 scholarships, we got 65. They have they have Trevor Lawrence, and they have Travis Etienne and all these wide receivers. Where Wofford doesn't have those kind of guys. I mean, it's a totally different.
It is
different programs, different style of play, because you're talking, like I said, 20 less scholarships, and that means a lot.
Right. I thought it was really refreshing to hear. I was surprised that Conklin said that. Not that it's anything way out of the norm, but generally, you're like, yeah, we're going to go in there, and there's always a chance, and and you can always bring up. And I know there was the talent gap here is far greater, but Citadel went in and beat South Carolina a few years ago. I mean, it happens. App State, at Michigan a few years ago, it happened. So I thought it was
somebody beat Furman this year. Who beat Furman? I mean, Georgia Tech. Who did Georgia Tech lose to? The Citadel.
Oh, that's right.
It was the Citadel. Yeah.
So it's just
so I scheduled the Citadel. That's what we're.
Yeah, there you go. So I mean, so Conklin didn't say anything like crazy or out of the norm, and he didn't say that. He said if the game gets out of hand. So he didn't say, well, but just to say that we're not in it to beat FBS teams. I thought that was an interesting comment.
Well, this week it's also Military Appreciation Day at Clemson, and the Tigers will come down in their traditional purple uniforms as they do now on Military Appreciation Day. Dabo says this is the only time he lets the players wear something different besides orange and white. Right. And so the Tigers will come down in there all purple. Players are excited about it. We talked to Jermaine Acom. He's excited about it, and so is Logan Rudolph and those guys. So, Eric, I ask you, man, first of all, your thoughts on the purple uniforms, first of all. And then second of all, I like what Clemson does on Military Appreciation Day. They're one of the first schools to do it. They've been doing it now since 1994. John Cicetta, shout out to you, my friend. You got that ball rolling back in 1994. One of the first schools to do it, maybe the first school to do it, from what I understand. And it makes sense with Clemson. For the people out there that don't know, Clemson has a strong military background. It was a military school when it started off. Memorial Stadium is named for the war veterans. That lost their lives in World War I and World War II. Clemson in World War II, I believe, next to Texas A&M, was the number 2 public college with the most Army officers in the war. So strong military history for Clemson.
Absolutely.
And they do it so well. And your thoughts on Military Appreciation Day and what Clemson does?
Yeah, I love it. I love the way they do it. I think the purple uniforms are cool because they only do it, as you said, for that one game. And Dabo said that the players get absolutely psyched up to wear the purple and to come running down the hill. But no, it's just tremendous. And I think other schools like a Texas A&M are kind of more known, I think, publicly for kind of being a school with strong military ties, and maybe those people outside Clemson don't realize their strong heritage. But they do it, like you said, they do it about as good as anybody. The celebration and all the theatrics that they'll do. I think they generally do a flyover and everything, and sometimes the guys will sometimes parachute in with a game ball, and just the theatrics of the whole thing is really a sight to see. And then I know they do this regularly, which I think is really cool. During breaks in the action, they'll introduce a lot of military people over the course of the regular season, even. But they'll probably have even a few more of those where they'll bring a veteran down, a guy that's maybe been a Purple Heart winner, or another ex-soldier, or even a current soldier that's being commended, and the camera will zoom on him, and they'll introduce him to the crowd, and he'll have 80,000 people cheering for him. I think that's so cool. And again, they do that a lot during the regular season, but they'll amp it up this week, I'm sure. But it really is a great day. If you have never been out to Death Valley and you get a chance to go to one game, you maybe rather see a more high-profile opponent, but you can't beat Military Day. Just the atmosphere, it's really stupendous out there.
It is, and the students wear the purple. It'll purple out. The students will, so they'll be in there all purple. The team will be in it. They're all purple, and it's pretty cool. And they asked the fans to wear purple. Now I know a lot of fans, don't have many purple shirts,
right,
but they asked the fans to wear purple this week to honor the military as well. So if you got a purple shirt, bring that to the Valley and wear it on Saturday. And also, this doesn't get talked about as much. The Scroll of Honor, which is right across the street from Memorial Stadium, on Williamson Road, across from Williamson Road. You really need to check it out if you haven't checked it out. It's got all the names of the so it's a war memorial over there. All the names of the guys that have lost their lives and ladies that have sacrificed their lives that are Clemson graduates or students at the time. Depends on the war, I guess. And it's quite moving when you go over there. My family's got a strong military background, and my stepdad was a cadet here at Clemson, so it really moves me every time. And go walk around campus and see the cadet that comes. That's the thing. A lot of people don't realize the cadets sitting there right looking over Bowman Field, because that's where they used to do their lines, and they get to do PT and everything in the mornings, and that's why the cadet sits right there overlooking Bowman Field. And so the military history here is, I'm very proud of it, obviously, and so it always means something to me on Military Appreciation Day. And like Eric said, if you get a chance, the one game to go to this one every year, because especially if you're a military person, you'll love what Clemson does for the military.
And then when we spoke to Dabo Swinney earlier today at his weekly press conference, and Dabo said that he asked, I guess last night at the team meeting or whatever it was, and said how many you players have family, I guess it's either been in or is currently in the military, and he said more than half the team raised their hands. Yeah. So that's interesting. I was really kind of hoping we would have gotten Justin Ross this week, because I really enjoy his story and his. For those of you who don't know, Justin's mother, I think she's out now.
Yeah, she had 8 tours.
Yeah, something in Afghanistan, I think mostly. And Justin has talked in the past to us, on several occasions about, how proud he is of his mother and her service. And I remember there was one story about one of his main recruiting trips here, and I think Coach Sweeney or Coach Scott or Coach Elliott, whoever it was, talked by phone to her while she was still overseas serving, and just really special. And there's a number of stories like that on Clemson's team, and Dabo did tell us also that they're working out every year. They kind of, I guess, let the players decide who's going to carry the American flag down the hill.
Which is pretty cool.
Yeah, so it's kind of neat that the coaches don't just step forward and go, okay, here's what we decided. They let the players come to their own conclusion about who gets that honor. So that's pretty neat.
That gives them more, ownership of it. It makes them feel more like they're part of this day too. Because they got to play the game and they do all that, and they wear the purple jerseys, and that's cool. But it comes at some point it becomes the game, and they're playing the game, so the players don't get to enjoy it the same way the fans do. They don't get to see all the hoopla and the pageantry that comes around it. They don't get to see the air show and all that, because they're in the locker rooms and all that's going on. So it's good stuff. Hey, get a chance, go out to the Valley this week, Clemson, Wofford. I hope there's 80,000 there. I really do. I know it's Wofford, it's FBS game and all that, but because of Military Appreciation Day, I hope there's 80,000 in the Valley, and you guys enjoy it. It's going to be a beautiful, nice, cool, crisp Saturday afternoon.
Yeah, it's not going to be plenty of time to tailgate. You don't have to be there till the middle of the night getting out of there. So 4:00 start should be a great afternoon. And
we'll come to your tailgate.
Yes, exactly.
I love fried chicken, chicken wings. Doesn't matter.
Well, yeah, I'm not picky. If it's there, I'll eat it. So, but this is the second to last home game, correct? Too.
That's it.
They go to Raleigh next week, and then of course they finish up the regular season in Columbia, and then most likely the ACC championship game in Charlotte, and then
of course they got Wake Forest in between.
Right, and then Wake Forest. So it's now or Wake Forest. That's your last couple of chances. To be in Death Valley for the version from this year's version.
Before we wrap up here, did you imagine that Wake Forest would be the ACC Atlantic Division Championship game when we looked at the schedule?
I did not. You know what? I'm really surprised. I thought this might finally be the year. I think in the voting, I think I had Virginia winning. I just thought they got a quarterback. It seems like.
I'm talking about the Atlantic, though.
In the.
Clemson, Wake Forest playing for the Atlantic.
Oh, yeah. No. That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. Did you think when you saw the schedule?
I thought it was probably the second best team. I thought Virginia was going to be the second best team.
And they still might before we all win. Nobody wants to be the second best team.
You didn't really see Wake. You didn't see Wake Forest. I thought Syracuse was going to be the possible thorn in Clemson's side this year. Maybe the team that had, even if Clemson beat them, that Clemson still had to go undefeated because there was Syracuse lingering there with one loss. But Wake Forest has had a heck of a year.
Yeah, they have. Colossus has done a great job there. I think he's one of the better underrated coaches in the country. We're going to see him in a couple of weeks. We'll talk about that game in a few weeks, obviously. But Eric, thanks so much for being here, man.
Always. Thank you for having me. Really appreciate you.
For Eric Borton, I'm Will Vandervoort. This has been On the Beat. Make sure you stay tuned to the Clemson Insider all week, as we have all kind of stuff leading you up to the Wofford game on Saturday.